Nelson as Michael Rossi. Mia Farrow as Allison McKenzie. Ryan O'Neal as Rodney Harrington. Barbara Parkins as Betty Anderson. Tim O'Connor as Elliot Carson. Christopher Connolly as Norman Harrington.
Three men. Leslie Harrington, his son Rodney Harrington, and Rodney's attorney, Stephen Cord. On the first day of The People versus Rodney Harrington, these three form the defense. John Fowler, District Attorney of Peyton County. This man, backed by the machinery of the law, is the prosecutor.
Thank you.
Sit down. What happens now? When the prosecutor and I impanel a jury, Fowler and I try to select 12 jurors and 2 alternates whom we believe will be most impartial, reasonable, and sympathetic to what each of us is trying to prove. Let's just hope that we're luckier than Fowler.
You make it sound like a guessing game.
Have you ever tried to make snap life or death decisions about people? Can you tell by a person's appearance whether he hates women or mistrusts all clean-cut looking young men? Or is that to make someone pay for his own frustrations and disappointments?
You're surprised? You didn't think I'd be here, huh?
No, I knew you'd be here. I wonder where his charming daughter is.
Norman.
All rise.
Department 2 of the Superior Court, County of Peyton now in session. The Honorable Irwin A. Jessup presiding.
Be seated. People versus Rodney Harrington. Is counsel ready?
Ready, Your Honor? Ready, Your Honor?
Are you ready to examine the prospective jurors?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
Bailiff, bring in the prospective jurors. Let us begin this trial with an understanding. I will not permit the dignity of this court to be compromised by any disturbance or outburst or unsolicited response by anyone at any time during this trial.
Dr. Rossi, can I have my call, please?
This is Martin Peyton.
Yes?
I want to see you. Come to my home immediately.
All right, I will.
Right now, Dr. Rossi.
Well, I'll be there as soon as I can break away.
That's not good enough. I want to see you right now. I need to see you right now.
Well, Mr. Peyton, I wish I could drop everything and come right over to your house, but it looks like I'm just going to try and have to, control my enthusiasm and come over as soon as my schedule will permit.
Right now, Dr. Rossi.
Well.
The Lord of the Manor beckons. And you, of course, are going?
Well, he is my landlord. My office on the square. He owns the building. Maybe he wants to meet the tenants face to face.
Oh, come on now.
Maybe it's my x-ray machine. Disturbing the neighbors. He's going to warn me about...
me. That's the reason for the summons.
Don't flatter yourself. My x-ray machine is much more important than Stella Chernak.
Everyone in this town has a vile temper.
It must be your gentle nature that brings it out.
None of that, young lady.
Anything else you need, Mr. Peyton?
You've stabbed me. You've caused me unbearable pain. What more do you want?
You know, you never have described my duties, other than give you your hypodermic and nag at you to take your pills.
The primary reason for your being here is in case of emergency. You might be of some help. One hopes.
Would you like to play some chess?
I don't feel like playing games today. There's a much better game being played at that courthouse. Russian roulette. My grandson's head is the target. Instead of 6 bullets, there are 12 itchy-fingered jurors. My medical file.
What? I'm sorry.
Please. Are you waiting for me to say please?
No, I didn't hear you.
My medical history is about the brandy. Just in case that kindly town practitioner decides to show up after all. Why didn't you go to the circus?
For the same reason you didn't.
The Vikings threw a suspect into a pit of wolves. Sword in one hand, the other tied behind his back. If he survived, he was proclaimed innocent. I didn't go because I refused to be another spectacle at what was already a spectacle.
You didn't go because it might hurt Rodney's case. For the town to see a man who might be able to buy justice. And I didn't go because people don't need to be reminded about Rod and me.
Oh, Miss Anderson. Stay. Please. A little while.
What do you think they're doing now?
Impaneling the jurors, I guess.
You called it Russian roulette before. Why?
Well, Miss Anderson, if you were on trial, I'd say the jury would be an asset. People are sympathetic to one of their own kind who is being subjected to the harsh machinery of the law. Compassion and passion would be on your side. They try to believe in your innocence. You're one of them. And there, but for the grace of God, go I.
Even though Rodney is your grandson, I can't believe they wouldn't be fair.
You see, I put the bread on that table. I also take it away. They resent that. They can't openly take out their resentment on me, but they can hurt me through Rodney. And then go home happy. Their souls cleansed by having done their civic duty. But in reality happy because for the first time in their lives, they've been able to pull strings, control someone else's life. I fear my analogy of Russian roulette was a good one. The odds are against Rodney. Strongly against him.
you. Betty, what are you doing here?
Miss Anderson is working for me. You fired Miss Anderson? I hired her. Your loss is my gain, I trust. Miss Anderson?
Yes, of course. Hello and goodbye, Doctor.
Change things around. Does change distress you?
Well, sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't.
Sit down.
Well, what is this all about? Rent payments, or have I been forgetting to turn the lights off at night?
I am beginning to see the reason for your success in that chronic New England. My medical history. Study it. It's confidential, of course.
I suppose there's no need for me to make a comment about how the patient had access to his own personal medical records.
I get what I want.
Oh, I see. I didn't know that.
And I want you to be my attending physician while I'm in Peyton Place. Minor job, really. To be available in an emergency only. I don't want Doctor's Hospital. I don't want Robert Morton. The incompetent Dr. Morton.
I can't agree with you.
His faulty diagnosis caused my daughter Catherine's death. He tried to stop you from the operation that might have saved her life. Then he intruded upon that operation, insisting upon taking over.
Mr. Peyton, I'm afraid he was already too late.
And you say he's competent?
I know he is.
The Hippocratic Oath. Never violated, is it? Then as long as he's head of administration, there'll be no endowments in Catherine's name. Of course, if someone else were to fill his rather ill-fitting shoes...
I'm afraid that's your concern, not mine.
And your assistant, Miss Stella Chernak. Miss Anderson was fired as an example of hospital ethics. If stealing is a crime, what is perjury?
Mr. Peyton, Stella Chernak's work at the hospital has been above reproach. That's my only concern.
How neatly you pigeonhole things. Stealing is wrong if it affects your hospital. Perjury is not if it doesn't. That woman's lies may convict my grandson of murder.
I have no knowledge that she lied.
But you were there, Doctor.
No, I wasn't. Not at that moment. Mr. Peyton, I don't think your grandson is a murderer, but I have no idea what he said to Stella Chernak.
Her sense of precision is amazing.
Look, why did you ask me here?
You work closely with Stella Chernak. One day she will reveal her treacheries. You will report that information to Stephen Cord.
Now think about your offer. To act as your physician.
So this is the sum of Michael Rossi. He's concerned about his protege, Miss Anderson, working in my home. But he won't protect her job. He refuses to damn his inept colleague, Dr. Morton. He's impervious to bribery. And he's loyal to the perjurer who assists him in his work.
All right, I think I've heard enough of this. Let's have the rest of it and be done with it.
You came here a stranger. Will you die here a stranger? Will you always be a spectator instead of, what is the word, Doctor, committed? Just what would it take to commit you? To anything. To anyone.
Ah, Rita.
Here you go, Mr. Carson.
You're a good one. I told Elliot that I'd mind the phone. He's expecting a call from wire service in Boston. I'm going to read this to him, sort of a background for the trial. This plain soda water is just the thing for my old tummy.
Oh, do you have a stomachache?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. How much do I owe you?
No charge.
Good. Then maybe you'll bring me another, this time with some lemon.
Sure thing, Mr. Carson. Then I'll run back again and get you your lunch. Say, maybe I better charge you something.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's too much.
No. Rita? How would you like to go to work for me? Selling marine engines and sails and life preservers and such.
Me?
Sure.
Oh, you're making fun of me, Mr. Carson.
No. I mean it. You see, I'm not doing so good over there. And I thought maybe a bright, pretty young thing like you might do better than me.
Well, that kind of stuff doesn't sell very well in cold weather, does it?
Yeah. You're right. Winter's coming on. I suppose you love the winters. I know I used to.
I don't expect to like this winter.
This soda sure fixed my tummy.
Good.
And to show my appreciation, Miss Florence Nightingale, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Come spring, I'm going to let you use one of my boats.
Oh, you don't have to do that.
Oh, you love boats in the water. I remember when you were little, your mother used to take you out almost every Sunday in the summertime.
Yeah. That was different. It's nice of you to offer, but I probably won't be here after this winter.
Now, don't say that. Don't talk like that.
Well, it's probably going to be true.
Rita, I've seen a lot of winters come and go. Times it seems like they'll never end, but they always do. And that trial that's starting across the street, it's going to end too. And afterward, to most people, it'll be a memory, just like the winters.
I'd like to believe you, Mr. Carson.
Please raise your right hand. Do each of you promise to answer truthfully all questions to be asked you touching upon your qualifications as a juror?
I do.
You may be seated.
Do you recognize any of them?
Yes, I recognize Mr. Andrade and Mrs. Baldwin.
Well, what's your reaction to them?
I have no reaction. I've just seen them around.
Positive?
Yeah, positive.
Well, if you recall any others, I want to know about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the defendant, Rodney Harrington, has been charged with the crime of murder in the first degree. The information alleges that on the 16th of July, the defendant, with premeditation, killed one Joseph Chernick. If anyone on the panel of jurors is acquainted socially or professionally with any of the persons named, will you please raise your hand? Is anyone on the panel of jurors acquainted with the family of the deceased? Anna Chernick, Gus Chernick, and/or Stella Chernick? Proceed.
My name is Stephen Cord. I represent the defendant. Is there anyone here who has not read about the case in the newspapers? Has anyone on the panel of jurors or any member of his family ever been the victim of physical assault? Mrs. Voigt, what is your business or occupation?
I'm a housewife.
Have you formed any opinion as to the innocence or guilt of the defendant?
No, sir.
Mrs. Voigt, after you've heard all the evidence and you've made up your mind as to the facts of the case, only to discover that most of your fellow jurors hold the opposite opinion, would that influence you by the opposition?
It would not.
No matter if all 11 of your fellow jurors opposed your opinions, you'd stand up for that?
I would stand up to them. Well, unless they could convince me my opinion was wrong.
Your Honor, we wish to exercise our first peremptory challenge.
You are excused, Mrs. Voigt.
That was unfair of him, very unfair.
I'll call you tonight.
Thank you, Mrs. Voigt. Miss Choate, where are you employed?
A doctor's hospital.
And how long have you been employed there?
18 years.
May I ask you if you've discussed the case with any members of your family?
No. I have no family here. I have discussed it with one or two people at the hospital.
Well, when you discussed the case with your friends, I presume you expressed an opinion, didn't you?
No, I haven't.
Miss Choate, as a nurse at the doctor's hospital, you've treated and cared for a patient named Allison Mackenzie, have you not?
Yes, I have.
And isn't it also true that you have had some contact with the defendant, Rodney Harrington, when he's come to the hospital to visit Miss Mackenzie?
Yes, that's true.
I would think that as a nurse you have some feelings for your patients.
Of course I have.
And sympathetic feelings for their families, their friends.
Please answer, Miss Choate.
I would like to be excused, Your Honor.
Thank you, Miss Choate. You are excused.
You are Mr. Devlin?
Yes, sir.
What is your occupation?
Boat builder.
How long have you lived in the county?
Well, I was born here. All us Devlins were born here after the potato famine.
Have you ever served as a juror before?
Yes, I have.
Was it a criminal case?
It was.
And how long ago was that, Mr. Devlin?
Almost 20 years ago.
Would you give the testimony of a police officer any greater credence than you would that of an ordinary citizen?
No.
Would the fact that the defendant is charged with a very serious crime tend to create any prejudice in your mind against him?
Well, maybe some prejudice.
What do you mean by some prejudice?
Well, if a man's been indicted, you've got to figure he's done something. Now, you just can't wipe that out unless you have proof he didn't do it. Isn't that right?
Mr. Devlin, do you mind telling me, what criminal case did you serve on?
Elizabeth Carson murder case.
Challenged for cause?
You are excused, Mr. Devlin.
Rodney, it's just a coincidence. Now, don't start worrying.
Don't say it, Dan. Don't say anything. Don't say anything at all.
Preview from the continuing story of Peyton Place.
Your desk was a lot neater when you first came to work.
So what?
So what? So what's wrong?
Well, you're going to fire me, aren't you?
I don't take their filthy money like you do. They're not going to get away with it this time. You Harringtons are not going to get away with murder. Not this time.